Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly Subspace Developer Sync. Some of the highlights for the network from last week and work we've done. We successfully rolled out Gemini 3C to our community. We'll be continuing this rollout with more public announcements this week, asking for kind of the general public to join as well. Currently, I believe we're at around 1,300 nodes, and I see more and more are fully synced, so that's great. We're collecting a lot of good feedback. Hopefully we'll be able to incorporate some of that feedback into further changes for 3C, but we've also begun the process of kind of getting ready to launch Gemini 3D in the next couple of weeks. We've also, last week, we met with SR Labs regarding our ongoing audit. So we're continuing to work with them. Right now, they're focused on networking and execution layer. We have a DevOps engineer joining today. I'll be introducing Muhammad more formally later in the call. And for me specifically, last week, one of the main tasks I was working on was a more detailed protocol engineering roadmap and laying out kind of all of the features and where we are in delivering on those features that roadmap out to a mainnet launch at some point in the future. Also was continuing to work on the handbook, lots of interviews, kind of just the standard things for the week. This week, my primary goals are going to be onboarding Muhammad, our new DevOps engineer, continuing to work on the roadmap, and the handbook and all the things. Did get a joke this week. ChatGPT 4, one of the major improvements appears to be the ability to put together somewhat humorous jokes, not a second layer at least of meaning to things. So this is a big leap forward in robbing future comedians of or hoping to help them take over that role. So here's the joke. How do blockchain engineers stay in shape? Come on, somebody. Say that again.
The mining?
No, close. Daria, you always get these. Nothing? By doing
they're
proof,
running something, but I don't know why. Proofs of work?
Proof of workouts. Okay, maybe it wasn't that good, but all right, Nazar, how are things last week?
Hey guys, last week was quite productive. Proof of space based on Chia finally landed in monorepo and merged into main. I have started working on upgrade of our KZG library from the I believe it was ArcWorks. No, it was Dusk library Plonk for KZG commitments and proofs and everything to Rust KZG. That's something we are using for ratio coding already. So we want to unify data structures so we can use actually both together. And I'm almost there. Verification still doesn't work, but once that is done, I will start using the ratio coding library we have introduced a little bit earlier in the archiving. And with that, it should be possible to work on the plotting for the farmer because commitments and new ratio coding is kind of a requirement there. There was also some primitives refactoring around pieces. There are a few helper data structures that allow us to avoid unwrapping data in some cases, just like statically known to be correct. And there was also insight from one of our ambassadors that there are actually several layers of x86 64 kind of instruction sets. So there is like the canonical one, which supports the very first processors with this instruction set. There is also version 2, which is a little bit newer and includes some additional instructions that might not be used by default. There is also version 3 and version 4. Version 4 requires AVX512, which is like the very latest Intel and AMD processors. So he suggested to use version 2 and version 3 as official builds. where it brings a lot of improvements using vector instructions. So I have a pull request open that will actually introduce those for Windows and Linux builds, where we will build official x86-64 version 2 and version 3 executables. And he claimed something like 2x improvement in desync time, which is compute heavy right now. So that is quite promising. And there was also a few discussions and tweaks to the specification of the version 2.3 consensus to make it implementable based on the code that I've seen and some of the nuances we have in the protocol. So this week, archiving upgrade and then working on plotting for the new version of the protocol is two my primary goals.
Great. Great to see progress. So, Shamil, I know we've been keeping you busy with lots of networking issues.
Yep, exactly. Last week I worked with network stability and performance. I made several different adjustments like query responses, timeouts, connection limits. I found several bugs. Just a lot of minor issues, but combined a lot of work. This week I will also focus on the network stability and performance. Probably the very next issue will be to limit incoming and outgoing pending connections.
All right. Rahul.
Yeah, so last week I completed the basic implementation of the alternate path, and I was able to test it where it's actually running with the substrate block relay download protocol in parallel. So so while the substrate is doing its thing, this alternate path also broadcasts the announcements and downloads the blocks and sends them to the import queue. They all seem to be working fine. Then I started testing with the actual substrate path disabled, and now only this alternate path is running, and I'm seeing a bunch of errors. Basically, it's not able to find a valid parent hash, and there are some other errors that I don't quite understand yet. So that's what I'm debugging now. So hopefully this week I'll be able to get this working without the substrate in the picture. Then we can migrate to the new path. And I also need to do more edge case testing, for example, nodes syncing from other nodes and nodes disconnecting and reconnecting and so on. So my goal is to complete all this by this week. That's
Great.
it.
Great. Lu Chang.
Yeah, so last week I finished the tasks of like verifying the pre-state rules and post-state rules in the invalid state transition proof. Retrieving the data using the execution phase for doing the state transition, like from the original primary block, is still a work in progress. I encountered like two more places similar to the invalid verifier situation, which where you need access the runtime type info without the client. You on the verifier side, it can only access the runtime but cannot access the domain client. So we'd already proposed a solution to solve that. We'll continue use that solution for the other similar situations. So then, that's the focus of this week, to get this final task in the invalid state transition proof revamping complete. That will help with this, and I guess it will probably keep me busy throughout this week. If I had more time, I'll start the invalid transaction proof. Yeah.
Do you mind updating us on? I know Ning couldn't be here today.
Oh, sure. So on Ning's side, he finally has finished the domain testing framework and already created the PR. He also spots bug like during on the executor side, where on creating the invalid state transition proof, like we used an invalid trace index for that proof. We already figured out the way to fix it. We haven't actually worked on it. For this weekending, we'll get this PR of new domain testing landed, and then he will start working on adding new tests with this new testing framework. And going forward, we'll kind of more like tester driven, maybe on the executors at the least. Yeah.
Great. Ved.
Hey everyone. Mostly what Lucian covered, apart from the XTM verification stuff where we had some initial assumptions that might not be valid anymore when it comes to primary chain. I was working on abstracting some of those things out. This week as well, work with Lucian to finish out the invalid transition fraud proof changes, along with any other changes that might go into XTM verification as well. On the infra side, I started migrating the DNS records. I think we have all of them migrated in Terraform, but the problem is we still do not have reasons why some of them are there because it was created long back. If you already know some of those, please go ahead and let me know. I can make those changes as well. Mostly get that in and maybe some other infra work and maybe a little bit of handout to Muhammad if he's ready, or maybe get him started out as well.
Muhammad will definitely be scheduling a call with you, Ved, to kind of go over current state of things. And
looking forward.
Yeah. Parth.
Yeah. So from my side, last week, me and Nazar had a discussion regarding the Ethereum beacon client. So we decided to first we decided to upstream the improvement that we did to beacon client instead of maintaining a fork. We did attempted to open a PR for configuration improvement, but that was rejected because we were using unstable feature. And parity developers are trying to move to the stable tool Rust toolchain. So the next best alternative is to include the upstream beacon client as it is in our Ethereum real runtime, and that is what we are doing. This week's primary goal would be to just integrate the Ethereum beacon client that is upstream, and also start working on the relay architecture as next steps.
All right. Let's move over to product. Stefano.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. So yeah, last week progress. So the Explorer is live. If you open explorer.subspace.network, you will see our new Explorer is a soft launch. It's very beta. We cover both Gemini 2A and Gemini 3C. We also have the support. I work with the sub-wallet team, as mentioned last week, and we have now the support of Gemini 3C. So anyone participating this new stage of the Gemini network can use sub-wallet as well. You should see in the options, you can add the network there. And also, we initiated the work with the product to support Gemini 3D. We also had some progress on the CLI and SDK side that Ivan and Osgun will share. About this week, I'm working on the internal release for the 2023 roadmap. That's probably the most important goal that I have. But at the same time, I will meet old friends and make new ones at the GDC in San Francisco. So I am in San Francisco this week, and I plan to attend the game developer conference that is downtown. I have blockers, of course. So this is a blocker, of course, because I have, to meet these people, so to be around at the event, and I'll also participate some special event and organize presentations, and so that will have, of course, an impact on my individual contributions. So that's it.
Great. I like how you put that multiple exclusive priorities. I'm going to use
Oh
that.
yeah. They exclude each other.
Yes. All right, Natasha.
Hello, everyone. For my case, last week I started working on supporting all SS58 format addresses for the block explorer. At first, I thought that I will need doing changes on the backend, but after understanding well how I can implement it, I decided just to make changes on the front end to not make any omnitent changes on the squids. Currently, there is a PR for that up, and I will resolve any comments for that before merging it. Also, last week, I worked on reviewing the subsquid 2A droplet issues. It went down last week, and after resetting it, it come back up, but had some issues with the CPU consumption for that droplet, and we are currently working on planning how to make a better load balancer for the droplets of the squids. Also, last week updated pieces for Gemini 3C squid, and this week I will be checking an issue with the Gemini 3C archive and continue working on any UI inconsistencies in the block explorer, and some add the block author on the blog page as well. Currently, I have a blocker for the Gemini 3C archive droplet. I get continue permission denied whenever I try to run any Docker commands. So I'm currently reviewing what that's happening.
Of course, all these things while Serge is off hiking. So we'll be back tomorrow to help. So
yeah, exactly. He's back. He will be back tomorrow. Yep. So we all like cheer.
Okay, great. Ivan.
Yeah, hello guys. So last week I was working on different stuff. So for example, I restored like some of the fields on the telemetry, like on our telemetry. So like specifically on the backend. So back when, like when we had like lots of nodes which are connected to our telemetry, we removed some of the like telemetry fields, like what like operating system like does not run on, and etc. Yeah, I restored those on the backend. Yeah, right now we're blocked on this search, so that he will like restore code for that on the front end. Yeah, also on the other things on the CLI side, like I added gmalloc so that like we would use like different allocators so that it will use like memory more efficient. Also added feature for writing SDK options in the config, because like some of the users wanted to supply different ports, yeah, and like various different things. So on the SDK side, there was a bunch of like different bugs which we discovered. So for example, somebody like this dropped the internet connection like at all during syncing, like using CLI. So we need to handle that gracefully and like report errors to users. Also, like there was there was some minor bugs related to the like having colors, like escape sequences in our logs. Like it was not desired. So yeah, we decided to remove that on both SDK and CLI. So yeah, apart from that, I updated monorepo, like added some simple farmer, like a mini CLI on the SDK side for me to test like on different chains. So yeah, and apart from that, like I was doing some testing. Like I tested Executor on our DevNet. I also tested Gemini 3C. Also I tested syncing from DSN, which is working right now, but it's kind of slow. Yeah, it also works on the SDK side, which is great. And while that, I discovered like also a bunch of bugs, and I will be busy with those like this week. For example, I don't report like syncing progress if I sync from SDK. So yeah, and there was a bunch of user-reported bugs, which I will be busy this week.
It's great how getting software in users' hands generates all the issues. So keeps us busy. Ozgun.
Hello. Last week progress is we released a new version for the CLI, and after SDK's API changed, I overhauled the farm function, so it's now more safe. I'm handling the subscriptions for the farmer, plotting subscription and the solution subscription gracefully, so when we exit, we don't get weird errors on the terminal. Root is no longer an accepted name for Node, since we want distinguished names in telemetry. I updated release notes for the previous releases as well in GitHub. After initial syncing is done, we were displaying a message called like syncing completed. This is misleading since syncing is continuing on the background. It is just that initial syncing is complete. I fixed that message, tested DevNet, found some bugs. We discussed it with Ivan, so everything is good. Answering some threads in the Discord, Nazar is tagging me. Thank you, Nazar, for keeping an eye out. We tested some Discord linked roles with Justin and Frejik. I tried to tweak the code and deploy the code for Discord bot for assigning a linked role for our users. The discussion is pretty dense, so I will not go dive into that. Aside from that, we are also generating more optimized Linux releases right now after following the updates from monorepo. This week's primary goal is to support multi-plot in CLI so that we will have a major version bump, and I don't have any blockers.
Last week was busy for you guys.
Yeah, and Ivan had some free time and contributed to CLI, so thanks to
Yes.
Ivan.
Yeah. Thanks. Daria.
Hey there. So on the writing research side, I have finished the draft of the second episode of the Hitchhiker's Guide, which talks about combining KZG schemes with Erasure coding schemes, gradually introducing what will be our archiving, and I believe Yi1 is going to be publishing it by the end of the week. So I will be starting the draft for the next episode, which will be talking about the consensus more closely to Subspace, not just the general schemes. I have also updated the consensus spec with the diagrams and more detailed descriptions specifically on the sections related to Erasure coding, following Nazar's feedback and implementation things. Kudos to Nazar to keeping me on the loop in the implementation so that we can, if there is a need, always address and change and modify some things in the spec, usually about the technical details of things, so that we do not deviate, which is important. We also had a meeting with one of the biggest SSD producers to validate our SSD-friendly design. That was good. He didn't find any issues, and it was nearly optimal. But he'd be continuing looking at it, whether he can find any more specific attacks or something like that. So that was very good news. And I have also been assisting Nazar with the implementation. This week, I will be continuing with drafting blogs, continuing answering questions on the MOS and on the spec side, and I will be trying to resolve come up with the algorithm, adapt the algorithm that we have for erasure decoding to commitments, not just to chunks. That would be needed for recovering records in a segment from the half of the records of the segment. It's not critical, it can work without it, but that would be much faster if I can devise that algorithm. So if I have time, I would dedicate it to that as well.
All right. A lot going there too. I feel like it's a very busy week last week and probably will be this week as well. So Justin, you've got a lot going on as well.
Yeah, hey everybody. So last week we had the Gemini 3C launch party that the community team hosted and launched with the community. It's great to see all of the community support there. Obviously, we've also been supporting Gemini 3C and trying to get all of those bugs answered and reported back to the development team as they come in. As Ozgun mentioned, also worked with him and had an in-depth discussion with him and Fajik regarding the Discord node integration we've been working on. And I myself was also working on the Discord wallet verification side of that as well. That's kind of 2-in-1 initiatives going at the same time. And also had an opportunity to draft some of the improvements and plan out some of the improvements that we had talked a couple weeks back regarding our Bitwarden configuration. So I'll be hopefully reaching out to some of you for feedback on that here in the coming days. This week's primary goal for me, we do have a new hire on the ecosystem team. Mr. Big Jim, one of our ambassadors, has been brought aboard. So I'll be helping getting him onboarded and trying to get him as comfortable as possible as one of our new amazing leads. And then also be working on getting a deployed version of the Discord wallet verification going. Be gathering some feedback regarding the Bitwarden improvement from Nazar and some other team members as well. Hoping to draft some of the localization mission, vision, and goals. This is one of the key objectives for me for this first quarter. So hopefully have that draft ready by the end of the week. And just some miscellaneous documentation updates and improvements that need to be pushed through as well. Beyond that, no major blockers on my end.
All right. Did I miss anyone before I introduce Mohammed? All right. We have a new engineer joining the team this week, Mohammed Pereira. I'm going to let him pronounce that. I should have probably practiced that ahead of time, but we're really excited to have him on board. So Mohammed, would you mind introducing yourself and maybe telling us where in the world you are, maybe where you're planning to be, and something about your favorite football team. So I see that there's been some conversation going regarding this. You're muted. No, you're muted.
Yes, sorry guys.
Oh.
So it's nice to meet you all. Good to see all the faces behind the different teams and engineering team. Hopefully I get to meet some of you individually just to ask some questions and obviously get to know you more. Just pronunciation of my name, it's Mohammed Pereira. So it's Portuguese. Grandfather was Portuguese. I'm quite mixed. Currently I'm in Morocco right now, but I've been here like 2 months and 2 months and a half. And I'm planning to go to the Emirates to reside in around May the 6th, first week. So I used to live there before, but I'm planning to move back there. Obviously good infrastructure and blockchain forwardness of the country is very good reasons. And obviously I'm starting as a DevOps engineer, so probably a lot to learn, but it's good to be here at Subspace team. Really enthusiastic about it and what you guys are working on. It's really cool, this whole new storage technology environment. So that's primarily one of the reasons why, tipped me to, accept the offer with you guys. So really cool. If any other questions pop up, I'll be happy to answer them. Favorite football team would be Chelsea, although we're, on the losing run right now. Ozgun is obviously smiling. Well, F1 team Mercedes, another team taking the beat right now too. So anyway, you can't always be on the win always. So you got to support your team always, no matter what. And feel free to ask me anything else.
All right. Well, great to meet you and have you on board. So with that, we will go ahead and say goodbye to those of you in the YouTube world.
All right, see you guys.